It could be the fictitious plot of a Broadway hit, but it's the true story of a brilliant playwright. For years, he worked in obscurity, and then virtually overnight found himself center stage. If you've had the chance to visit New York, you may have seen August Wilson's Pulitzer Prize-winning play, Fences. It's wonderful. If you haven't, don't worry. Eddie Murphy has purchased the movie rights and plans to appear in the film. Bob Brown has the story of August Wilson, a man who had to overcome not only poverty and racism, but even a teacher who didn't believe in him.
At Sweeney's Pub in St. Paul, he's the guy in the cap at the end of the bar who talks in a low, smoky voice and scribbles on a yellow pad. This is his neighborhood, so a lot of people have seen him around by now. They should take a good look. He is August Wilson, and he has won the Pulitzer Prize, written a record-breaking Broadway play, and made $1 million off of it. He just likes to write in bars. It's an old habit.
It does something. It pumps you up. I find it easier to do that than if I were sitting off alone. And it may have something to do with the fact also that writing is a solitary occupation, and I fight against it being solitary.
Besides, that yellow pad on the bar has produced some of this decade's most critically acclaimed plays.
Boy, you is a bigger fool than I thought. To let somebody take away your job so you can play some football? Now, how you gonna get money to take out your girlfriend and whatnot?
Among them, Fences, the story of a former baseball player in the Negro Leagues, played by James Earl Jones, who because of his color was denied a shot at opportunities in the majors, a frustration that spills into his family life in the 1950s.
That's because I'm saying. I don't care what nobody else say. I'm the boss here. You understand? Yes. I'm the boss here. And I do the only saying that counts.
Fences took in $12 million in the first year of its New York run, and August Wilson won every major playwriting award in America. According to New York Times drama critic Frank Rich, Wilson is rewriting the history of American theater by bringing the history of Black America to the stage.
Thanks a lot. See you. You too.
And yet, there he is, still a face in the crowd, easily passed by amid the glitz.
It's a tight clip. You know August Wilson? What a pleasure. How are you? What a pleasure to meet you. How are you?
And he would still be more comfortable writing in a bar in St. Paul than here for the Hollywood opening of Fences.
It's everybody's family. It's every American family, and it's the involvement. It's the Channing family, I can tell you that.
That's very kind.
Wilson's two other award-winning plays are Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, set in the 1920s. A drama about blues musicians whose work is stolen from them by managers and recording companies.
They tell me Joe Turner's come and gone, oh Lordy.
And Joe Turner's Come and Gone, set in the decade between 1910 and 1920, about the spiritual confusion of a black man who was illegally held in bondage for 7 years by a Mississippi bounty hunter who really existed, named Joe Turner.
I'm gone.
Before he's done, Wilson wants to have written one play for each decade of this century about the lives of Black Americans.
I'm simply trying to place that tradition on stage. One, to prove it exists, and two, to show that it can offer sustenance.
Sustenance in what regard?
To blacks, that they have a tradition that is theirs, and that this tradition is capable of supporting them, that they have a ground, that they have something that they can stand on.
The one unifying theme of his work so far has been lost opportunity. It was a theme Wilson was introduced to early, when he dropped out of this high school in his hometown of Pittsburgh, because he'd written a history paper so well that a teacher refused to believe August had done it.
I liked the guy. I was trying to get his attention. And he called me in, and I thought, this is great. He wants to talk with me about my paper. Only to find out he didn't believe that I had written a paper. I took it and tore it up and put it in his wastebasket and walked out of the school. I got up the next morning, and went and played basketball under the principal's window, because I wanted the principal, looking back on it, I wanted the principal to come out and say, how come you aren't in school? And I thought maybe, you would think that maybe after 3 weeks, and I never showed up in a guy's class, that someone might wonder where I was at. No one ever did. This is the house where I used to live.
Back here?
There was a building here, and this was a little alleyway here.
August grew up in a 4-room walk-up apartment in Pittsburgh that he shared with his mother and 5 brothers and sisters. His father, a white man, worked as a baker and didn't live with the family. At that crucial point where he thought the schools didn't care, August knew his mother did, and that motivated him to educate himself.
I didn't want my mother to know that I dropped out of school, so I had to get up in the morning and pretend I was going to school, leave the house at the same time. Instead of going to school, I would go to the library, because I had to do something. And I would go to the library, and I would read various books and study various things, and then I would come home after school.
He was also roaming the streets, writing poetry, working at odd jobs. And without knowing it at the time, he was picking up scraps of history and dialogue. There in his neighborhood and in cities throughout America in the 50s was a rich black culture growing old. Men and women whose language and experience bridged the generations between slavery and civil rights. One of the places he found those people was Pat's Place, a neighborhood cigar store and hangout for retired railroad porters.
How you doing? Okay, man, how you doing?
You know, I've been seeing you for years.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And when I saw you on television, I recognized you.
Okay.
August is a kind of celebrity in Pat's Place now, but as a young man, he says he was simply hoping to find out how that older generation had survived. So he sat for hours and listened to them talk. As an aspiring poet and playwright, he did a lot of his writing on the next block at Eddie's Barbecue, the first restaurant August used as a writing place. Eddie wanted his counter space reserved for customers who were eating, not writing.
I've got to ask you something. Yeah. Did you know what he was doing when he was sitting on your counter
when he was
writing on paper?
No, I had no idea what he was doing. Yeah, but what I do know is I knew he knew how to cook barbecue, and I was trying to get him to come to work for me, and I offered him a job. And he said he'd think about it or something. And the next thing I know, I heard people talking about August was a writer, or he wrote plays. And I thank God for that. It's good.
Yeah. To this day, Eddie believes August Wilson could have been a great barbecue cook. August thought about that, too, because as he tried his hand at playwriting, it just wasn't working out.
And I remember I was trying to force words into the mouths of the characters instead of allowing the characters to talk in their natural way. And these are black characters, because I didn't see a value in the way that blacks spoke. I didn't see a value in. I thought you had to change the language in order to make it meaningful.
As in?
Well, as in, for instance, I get one of the plays was started. There's an old man or old woman on a park bench, and a guy walks up and says, "Our lives frozen in the deepest heat and spiritual turbulence." I mean, the character would not talk like that. See, so it was that kind of poetic dialogue that I was trying to write. At any rate, I asked my friend Rob Penny, I said, how do you make them talk? And he said, you don't. You listen to them. But it was the truth. And I can't say I went out and started listening right away, but I never forgot that.
It wasn't until he left Pittsburgh, where he'd been swamped by the demons of lost opportunities, that Wilson finally unlocked the value in the voices of the people he had known. He moved to St. Paul to write for a black theater group. And in letting his characters speak to him, he discovered a logic and style that made all his works come alive.
What I discovered in terms of dialogue, and particularly in terms of black dialogue, is a lot of things are implied as opposed to stated. So that makes it a live, vibrant kind of conversation.
Listen to him describe a scene from his upcoming play, The Piano Lesson.
One of the characters says, what time Bernice get home? The answer is, you up there sleep. Bernice leave out of here early in the morning. She's working out there in Squirrel Hill cleaning the house for some of them white folks. They don't like you to come late. If you come late, they give you your car fare. What kind of business you got with Bernice? It ain't my business. I ain't asked you what kind of business you got. Bernice ain't got no money. That's what she's looking to catch you for. She having a hard enough time trying to make it as it is. If she go ahead and marry Avery working every day, she go ahead and marry him, they could do all right. But as it is, Bernice ain't got no money. So when the guy said, what time does Bernice get home? The other guy heard, I want to borrow some money from Bernice.
It's been less than 5 years since August Wilson's dialogue began flowing onto the Broadway stage, thanks largely to Yale Drama School head Lloyd Richards, who discovered the script of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and directed it in 1984. Next up was Fences, set in the 1950s in a neighborhood very much like the one where August Wilson grew up. When you hear Wilson read his own dialogue, as he did at a recent benefit in St. Paul, you hear him in both parts. The father who works to eke out a living because he was denied the opportunity to play pro baseball, and the son who starts this conversation with a question.
Can I ask you a question? What the hell you want to ask me? This is the Wiki, the one you got the question for. How come you ain't never liked me?
Like you? Whoever said that I got to like you? What law is there that said I got to like you? You want to stand up in my face and ask me some damn fool-ass question like that, talk about liking somebody? Come here, boy, I want to talk to you.
I discovered that if I let the characters talk, that they would tell me the story. They would tell me whatever I wanted to know about the play.
Straighten up, goddammit. I asked you a question. What law is there say I got to like you? None.
Eat every day? Yes, sir. Got a roof over your head? Yes, sir. Clothes on your back? Yes, sir.
Why you think that is? Because of you? Oh, hell, I know it's because of me. But why do you think that is?
So in the writing of the play, I have no idea what is going on, what's going to happen even in the play, but the characters develop.
You like me? Like you? I go out of here every morning and bust my butt, putting up with them crackers all day long because I like you. You's the biggest fool I ever saw. It is my job. It is my responsibility. You understand that? A man got to take care of his family. You live in my house. You sleep your behind on my bedclothes. You put my food in your belly. But you are my son. You are my flesh and blood. Not because I like you. It is my duty to take care of you. I owe a responsibility to you. Come on. Let's get this straight right now. We're going any further. I ain't got to like you.
Every great American playwright, Eugene O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, has a kind of style or quality that people remember them for. What would you like people to identify in your style and your quality?
Honesty. That is the most difficult thing about writing, is being honest, is being willing to face yourself. Writing is like walking through this landscape of the self, and you have to be willing to accept whatever you find there, and willing to confront whatever you find. And after you've done that a few times, then you look up and you discover your demons aren't as big as they used to be. And then you go, wow, hey, I'm bigger than you, get back, I'll step over you, get out my way. And that's a great feeling to have, spent years of your life wrestling with something, only to discover that through the process of wrestling with it, that your spirit has gotten larger.
What a talent. I would think, though, Bob, it'd be a real trauma to have a teacher not believe you'd written something, tear up your paper and throw it in the wastebasket. And that happened to Wilson. Did the teacher ever find out that he was wrong?
As a matter of fact, the teacher did find out and apparently was pretty embarrassed by it, because years later he did apologize to August for what he'd done.
Oh, he darn. It certainly is true that what August Wilson says about allowing the characters in his plays to write the thing, that's the mark of a great playwright.
It is, and he has still got project after project going. He's finishing the screenplay for Fences this month. Eddie Murphy bought the screen rights for $1 million. Next month, he has a play called The Piano Lesson opening in Chicago. So the voices are still coming loud and strong.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Next, Glasnost over lunch. I met with Reza Gorbachev on Wednesday, and I'll tell you all about it right after this.